Welcome back to another Sunday Sessions video. Obviously, I hope everyone's had a good weekend so far and ready to hit the trading week coming. It's probably a bit new for you guys to see my face on here. I know it's been quite a long time since I've been on one of the Sunday Sessions, but essentially I've been back into trading now for the last few months. I never fully stepped away. I just had to put it on the back burner whilst I was, chasing other endeavors, but fully back into the markets now. And I thought it would be a cool idea to just show you guys some analysis. And with Luke obviously being away in Sydney for the week, anyone who follows us quite closely will know that Luke spent the last week on a business trip in Sydney. So he landed back today. So the jet lag is pretty real and intense. And therefore I thought it'd be best to tag myself in and do the analysis here. So like always, I'm going to pick 3 pairs to go through, just to pretty much explain what I'm looking for. I'm going to do a brief top down because I never like to just look at one time frame. I think a really important thing I've always preached, if you go back to the Learn to Trades from 2-3 years ago now, and you see me as a younger guy explaining how it's really important to have a story and a bias in the market. And what I mean by that is using the higher time frames to understand on those time frames, what does price want to do? Because that's going to dictate the analysis we get to as we drop the time frame. So looking at this market from a left to right, we can obviously see there was a level of bullishness. We traded up for quite a long time. This market was very, very bullish from, 2022 here, or actually if we scroll back, it's been a very, very long time. I funnily enough remember, bit of a side story, I remember getting into trading when price was probably around this point and seeing this as a reaccumulation, which eventually happened, and we've seen price take off quite massively now. But if we kind of compare this to a Wyckoff price cycle, and we zoom out and we look at the structure here, we can see that at the bottom of the market here, we've had kind of like an overall accumulation of price where price has accumulated, we've broken out, we've kind of had that initial bullishness, but right now we're in quite an important phase of the market because there's 2 things that could happen here. We can see that price has kind of entered into a little bit of a range that it's struggling to get out of. And there's kind of 2 things long term that price can do. Price is either reaccumulating once again here before making a move higher. And, a reaccumulation sounds like a fancy word, but it basically just means consolidating for a while to pick up enough demand and enough momentum to take price higher and make a new bullish run. So it's kind of like a pit stop. You imagine an F1 race. It's like a little pit stop for the bulls before they then take that next move higher. Or it's going to be a distribution, which in short just means the end of an uptrend and the creation of a downtrend. So obviously that's the 2 things that could happen here. There's no full sign of either one of those right now. That's why we have to be a little bit careful on this market, because typically in times of sideways movement or consolidation, we have a lot of manipulation or fake outs. And what I mean by that is price will quite continuously give signs of doing one thing before going and doing the other. And to give a great example of this, if we look at this kind of area down here, well, how is this a manipulation? Because when this low was set, it's given 2 kind of fake breaks of structure where price has wicked through the previous low, showing early signs of a break lower, and therefore leading us to think, hey, it's going bearish, let's go, before actually just wicking and making a move higher. And these are kind of those manipulation areas. So we have to be kind of careful because our long-term story is kind of unclear at the moment. So the next coming week should be pretty important to see what price wants to do. Now, if we kind of look more closely into what price has done recently, we have been getting delivered some pretty nice bearish structure, which could potentially mean the start of a move lower. And why do I kind of like this? Well, after we had a break of this low here, we've obviously been breaking down bearish. We have reacted quite nicely to supply zones. We can see that, after breaking the low, we've pulled through, we've come back up to tap into a cleared supply zone here. As we've broken down further, we've tapped into another supply zone here, or thereabout. It does allow for a mitigation. So what I would ideally like to see, if in the long run we're gonna go bearish, I would like to see a reaction to this zone and a move lower. If, however, that isn't delivered, the other thing that could possibly happen is demand is in control, where we'd essentially come back down, trade into a demand zone, which I would identify right here, before trading higher. So I know that's a little bit confusing because obviously there's two things it could really do right now. So what I would therefore advise you to do is just be a little bit careful whilst trading this market, because when there's not a clear picture on the higher time frames, that typically means the market's quite choppy. It does random things. It's undergoing phases of manipulation. It's harder to predict the market in these phases because there's genuinely two things that could happen right now. It's still kind of unclear to know whether supply or demand's in control, because yes, we've reacted to some supply zones here, but we've had a lot of rejection from this region. So we're kind of between two different biases where price is clearly showing rejections to the downside and wants to go higher, in which case we'd want to see price react to the demand. Demand comes in control and we start trading higher. If not, we'd like to see price now reacting to the supply zones, clearly break these lows properly, not just a wick, but really create structure that holds below that. And if it does create structure that holds below that, we know we're going to go short for a very long time. And for those coming weeks, I'll be looking to really load up on sell positions. If we then drop down to a 4 hour and we really look inside of structure just to see what's happening, we can obviously see clear end of the impulsive wave. Correctional wave has been formed. I'm still really looking at this region and I'm actually going to set an alert because I don't think we've had a full mitigation of that zone. And therefore, if price trades us into this zone, I would love to see a distribution occur, or essentially just signs that supply is being introduced here. We have breaks of structure lower. We have a lot of volume and momentum on the bearish side to start trading us down. If I see that, I'm going to be looking at short positions. If not, and price continues breaking down from here, I will then be waiting to see how it reacts. It's either going to react to this zone, in which case I'm going to hold off from trading because then I have no idea what the market wants to do. Or if it breaks this low right here, and we have that breakthrough and we have structure start to hold beneath, I'll then look again to go short. So long-term bias is on the sell side on this market. If we head on over to the Euro USD, this is the second market I've been looking at. Similar kind of analysis I'm going to do here, where I'm going to start on the 1 day. What am I looking at? So to me, looking at price action, this looks like quite a clear reaccumulation where we've had this area of consolidation, which is what I'm being cautious of that we might be undergoing on the dollar yen on that higher time frame. Why am I cautious? Well, because in areas of consolidation, it's quite hard to trade effectively. Like we have a trending base strategy. Why? Because again, we see lots of fake breakouts to either side. We keep breaking structure. We've had a break of the low, a break of the low, a break of the low, and then we break the high. And each time we have one of these breaks, we don't actually then see price go on to trends. We just see a reversal, and now we have no idea what's going on. So we've been very patient during this period to kind of wait out that area of consolidation. But what we've seen is we've seen a full manipulation to the downside, the formation of an accumulation, and coming out of that accumulation, what's happened is we finally got high volume, and that high volume has traded us out. What does high volume mean? It means that institutions and the smart money operators, or whatever you want to call them, the composite man, however you've been taught or learned, is in control, and the big players are pumping money into the long side, hence why we have this high volume to the upside. Pair that with the break of structure, and now what I need to see is I need to see price pull back and react to these demand zones, because if they react to these demand zones, it gives me confirmation that demand is in control, and then I'm going to know, given this is a daily time frame, Let's say we react from this, we start moving higher. I'm going to be looking to take advantage of buy positions for the coming days, weeks, and months to take advantage of, in what my eyes is likely going to be a move to come and run these highs after this reaccumulation. Because the only reason that the institutions would reaccumulate here is if they have the objective to go and push price much higher and run that liquidity. If we then break that down, we'll come down to a 4 hour. If we look at this zone I've identified, let me just zoom in a little bit better. Very clear sell before we buy. What I'm going to be just watching over the coming days as price opens is just how we react to this zone. So how is structure holding in this demand zone? What I would ideally like to see is looking at the bearish structure that traded us down into it. I don't know if I've got a brush tool knocking about anywhere. There we go. If we look at the impulse, white so nobody can see it, great. Retracement, impulse, retracement, impulse. What I'm essentially going to look for is, hopefully, this is my prediction, we've had correction, we've distributed, we have the next impulse lower. What we should then hopefully see is a reversal of this downtrend here, and therefore creation of the new impulse on this higher time frame, which would hopefully look a little bit like this. I want to see us break the previous high, pull back into a zone before then taking off, because at that point, once we've been delivered with this little piece of breaker structure, confirmation in the demand zone, again, I'm looking for price to now run all the way up to many pips higher, which gives me, you know, from this point, thousands of pips of leeway to be getting involved in long positions, for the foreseeable to be involved in the higher time frame bias and story of the bullishness. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in this market, is essentially price trading us down into that zone, having a clear reversal. And that doesn't mean it's going to perfectly look like that, like the markets don't work like that. It might come and start breaking structure and make a run to the high now. Again, it might break down. Like the markets are never set to do one thing. It's always about the supply and demand balance. But, you know, from my experience, this is the most likely thing that should happen in the market. If we then head over to the final chart that I was looking at, which was gold, I'm getting quite excited about this market, I guess I would say. Why? Well, we know that for quite a while now, we've been very bullish in this market. And it's always really funny. A lot of people that have been trading now for a while will remember, if you look back to a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago, it's really funny remembering, you know, for me, I remember when price was here and we thought it was going to go lower. It's really funny to see how price plays out from, you know, analysis years ago. But long story short, we've had a very clear bull run here. We've had the reaccumulation. And to kind of tie this back into what I want to see with Euro USD, let's compare what I think is going to happen here. If you remember when we were on the 1 day time frame on Euro USD, I said we underwent a period of consolidation where it was reaccumulating. What we then saw was we saw price really manipulate the lows, accumulate, start making a run for the highs, deliver a break of structure, react to a demand zone, giving us confirmation demand is now in control. And then we spent from October of 2023 to present date, so a year and a half, coming up 2 years now, in an insane bull run where there were so many positions to be entered in on the long side. This is what I'm hoping for and predicting on Euro USD, is that we're going to see this move happen next. And if so, I obviously want to be getting edged in on these long positions all throughout over the next months, years, to really capitalize from this market in the long run. However, not to get too sidetracked, let's come into what price is doing recently. We're still bullish on this time frame. We see that this is the current impulse we're working within. This is the trading range that we're working within. And there's 2 zones that I've identified that I would like to see price kind of react or reverse from to show that demand is still in control. Because again, if price fails through these and we break this low, it could mean that massive bull run has come to an end and we're ready to start going lower. But if not, it'd be nice to see price reacting to these zones before making the next run for the high. So why am I a little bit excited about this? Because this quite clear sell before we buy. I've identified prices tapped into, which I did predict in the Learning Lounge. So anyone who's involved in the Learning Lounge, if not, there's a link in the description. We post analysis in there all the time. And I predicted that this was going to happen when price was here. I said, look, we're going to tap in a zone. We're going to have a reversal. So anyone who profited from that, good stuff. We've seen it happen. We've made a break of structure, which has happened right here. You know, we've broken one of the highs that should have been protected if we wanted to continue running bearish. What's then happened is now we're on this time frame. I can identify a new zone. For me, on the previous time frame I was on, the zone looked a bit different on a lower time frame, but as we've zoomed out, we can actually see prices quite perfectly traded us down into this demand zone and started making a run. So why am I excited about this? Out of all the markets we've looked at today, this probably looks the most promising for a big move to happen in the coming week. Why? Because we've already had the higher time frame demand zone tap. We've had the break of structure. I don't know why I wasn't a fan of me changing the color of that, but there we go. We've had the break of structure. We've had price come back into and react from a demand zone. And what should now happen is we're going to continue running long. We're going to continue going higher to come and start taking the liquidity at these highs. So how am I going to look to trade that in this coming week? Well, I'm going to look at price where it's at right now. You know, even if we go down to a 15-minute, obviously this stuff kind of happened towards market close, which we know typically volatility will die out towards market close. But I'm going to be very intrigued to see on market open and see in the early hours of Monday what happens with this market, where we're at, where we react. Obviously, if we come to break this low, we're not ready to reverse. But if we actually start making runs for these highs, I genuinely think this move could take us to come and break these higher time frame highs, and we can really look at edging in again on those buy positions to fill in that gap or the distance between here and kind of the final target that we're looking for price to go and hit. So I'm excited about this. Obviously, if we get delivered the right structure and the right signs that we are definitely going bullish from this point, I think we can actually profit from a lot of buy positions in the coming days and weeks. So really keep your eyes peeled on this one. But yeah, that is pretty much going to wrap up the analysis that I had for you guys. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Obviously, you want to ask anything about this analysis as the week plays, reach out to us on Telegram, in the Learning Lounge, all links below. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we will see you in the markets this coming week.